Hey, and welcome to The Office Field Guide. My name's Chris, and I'm reviewing every episode of The Office ever. And today, we're talking about...
Woof.
Full disclosure, when I was originally writing this, I wanted to do a documentary-style intro about the roots of Woof.com's wild success. Kind of educational, inspirational tale of two smallish town guys with a vision and a passion to bring their idea to life.
Hey, I'm Woof.
I'm Facebook.
But there really wasn't enough good material to pull from the series to really do that justice. Either way, we do have a deep, psychologically thick episode on our hands.
What do you want to say, Michael?
So let's go.
.com.
I understand nothing.
We're going to work through this episode as a recap, calling out the good stuff that I like to along the way, because there is just so much stuff to talk about. As Ryan transitioned into a full Silicon Valley hipster over the course of season 6, we started hearing about his big idea back in the finale of that season, Whistleblower.
Woof is a site that I'm launching to be the last word in social networking. For just $12.99 a month, Woof links up all your communication portals so you are always within reach.
And it has been referenced a few times here and there.
I video chat, I Skype, I text, I tweet, I phone, I woof.
Woof.com!
Ryan, we're doing a dance!
Today's episode is the culmination of that subplot, and the implications are pretty heavy. Ryan let slip during another round of investor pitches that the company only has 9 days of resources to stay alive. Rye seems pretty undeterred by this, which to live in that anxiety-free mind for a day would be a nice vacation. The thing in this episode is that many of the office staff have actually invested in Woof.com, and now they're afraid they're going to lose their money. How much, we don't know. We actually probably should because of the figures Ryan's put on this board, but we're going to get to that in a second. We don't get a lot of background on why these people believed in Ryan enough to even invest in him in the first place. It's there, kind of in the background though. Ryan, with all of his faults, is kind of a slick-tongued fella.
The guy has an algorithm to determine the winner of any given college basketball game.
By the way, the spelling of woof always aggravates me. I think it's like Howard's way of being able to differentiate himself in an era of spelling normal things like idiots for the internet. Word of mouth sharing would have been extremely frustrating, I'm sure, but it's actually frustrating to me to just type Woof.com out. Something about having to hold shift with my right pinky, typing the W, U, which feels natural, and then having to awkwardly find the P with my middle finger, then stretch for the H, then reset for my neatly laid out neural pathway for .com. It just feels awkward. I don't know if that was intentional by the writers or just my own weirdity. And I can hear you saying, Chris, just don't use capital letters and it's much easier. And I can hear you, but first, mind your business. And then two, it feels on brand to do all caps.
Woof.com.
Like you're not saying woof.com, you're saying woof. And branding is all Ryan has really thought through here. Though in fairness, it does seem like in universe there was a functioning beta site that did exist. I don't know why else the company would be going out of money in 9 days. That money is going somewhere, so either Ryan is stealing it, using it for branded condoms, or a combination of all of those things, plus the fact that he had a beta site up and running. While we never actually see Woof.com on screen, NBC gave us fans back in 2010 a website, and this is what it would have functioned like. Quick aside, I actually tried to get my hands on the real Woof.com domain back when I first started this channel, knowing that it was going to be an uphill battle. Like maybe take a year or two to get it. I wasn't able to, so sorry, this wasn't some big reveal. And then sometime during the pandemic, someone else got their hands on the domain and is using it to spotlight some Amazon products for the office. So, whatever. Chrome told me to get out of there though, so I can't recommend hitting that site until they get their security certs figured out. But thankfully, we have the internet Wayback Machine to see what the original Woof.com would have felt like. We could see this giant form field that you can use to woof at your friends. I have no idea if this stuff actually worked in 2010, but like right now, when I click start a woof, I immediately get greeted with this error message, which 100% was a great touch. By the way, we do know that the technology did work at the time.
Woof, from Ryan Howard, decided to sell company, thanks bro, hell of a ride.
Thank God.
Which honestly is impressive to me. Server logic and programming stuff like this isn't really easy, so It's possible that Ryan just got one of the former IT guys in on the fun.
What's the name of the guy in the glasses again?
Okay, moving backwards, our IT guys have been glasses, turban, ear hair, fatty 3, shorts, fatty 2, lozenge, and fatso.
Moving on to the About page, one of my favorite touches here is that Ryan has decided to talk about himself for 3 paragraphs. You can pause to read this, there is some great stuff in there, but there's just 2 small sentences about what the actual application is. It's a little on the nose, but it does accurately describe Ryan's bent on selling himself rather than the site itself. Maybe to him, the product doesn't matter as much as the man selling it. Not really sure where he would have learned that.
My mission is stated as follows. I will not be beat. I will never give up. I am on a mission. That is Michael Scott guarantee. It doesn't have to be paper. We could sell medicine and other.
Moving on to the investors page, Ryan references being an early adopter for a Canadian indie band named Arcade Fire, which I actually just spent like 20 minutes listening to, and it's not too bad. Thanks, random recommendation from a decommissioned NBC site from 2010. But Ryan's pitch, I think there was actually like a Canadian Indian band reference in the last episode too.
Honey, no.
Yes.
No, no.
Yep, there it was. Ryan's pitch to investors is keying in on the dot-com boom from the early 2000s, which might have been a good sell in the early 2000s, but that bubble burst long ago in the year 2010, and he's honestly late to the game. That's not to say that there wasn't a market for internet startups. That's basically all of what the Silicon Valley TV series is about, and I love that series, by the way. Watch it if you have a chance. The Scranton, PA is not Silicon Valley though, and Wolf.com is not Pied Piper. It's an app that honestly already existed at the time. It just gave you the ability to get notified on multiple platforms. I do love Oscar's comment.
Did you ever think of Wolf as an emergency notification system, like for college campuses with shooters or gas leaks?
No, Oscar, it's not a digital rape whistle. Wolf is about fun.
But Rye is about branding. I mean, as you can see in Q5, profits are going to increase by 210%. So actually, if you go to the investors page, you actually can download this thing in all of its full glory. It is a PDF even. And just to be honest with you, I don't always know how to read these types of things, even though I work for a giant mega corporation and I see this kind of stuff all the time. A lot of times I just stare at these things and I have no idea what they really mean. In this case, I don't think Ryan knows what any of these things mean. He has data dating back to 2004, and I'm not entirely sure what that's meant to reflect, other than he's just making up numbers. And really, just to add on to that, if Ryan is lying, then these are some really measly numbers to lie about. In the fiscal year of 2010, the company brought in either $446.79 or $362.18. And that's including investor stock. And so, to be honest, while I don't even know how to read normal financial projection things like this, I'm pretty sure that's Ryan's intention here, as he doesn't expect people to ask any real questions. Moving on to this amazing chart, Ryan has the launch in November. And if you guys didn't know, this is The Office's one and only Thanksgiving episode.
Thanks giving me your money day.
Right, we're gonna get into the Hey Play stuff here in a bit. I did audibly laugh out loud when these callouts said millionaire and billionaire point. Fantastic. The yellow line represents the Wolf.com subs, the blue line reflects advertising sales, and the green reflects the premium accounts. And these lines might actually tell a story of why this platform might have failed, even if it did catch fire at some point.
Ryan started the fire!
Ryan's model here is monetized based on app upgrades, but also on advertising clients, which means that somewhere in the terms of service, you gave rights for a company to woof at you.
That's
You
so
choosing
dope.
woof, peace. Woof alert. Woof, woof, woof. Haha. Seriously. Thanks.
Which sounds like nightmare fuel, and it's probably the point of the paid subscription. As in, if you are a paid Wolf.com user, you don't get bugged with Wolf apps. Best of all here is that he's expecting to be a billionaire within 5 months. Literally best of all from this entire sheet is that Ryan seems to have just copied and pasted some content here in this bottom right section. The first paragraph is like explaining why projections are important, and like they read from a how to create financial projections website. And it even has a sentence, here are some tips for crafting solid financial projections. And then it just goes to the next paragraph, which is about why spreadsheets are important. Also found a typo. Not sure if that was on purpose, like if it was a Ryan typo or if it was a typo whoever made this up. I think it works either way. Back to the site. Downloads let you snag wolf.com bumper sticker and a fax cover sheet, which is just NBC kindly adding Ryan's last wolf to Michael. On to testimonials. We get Creed in here twice, Kelly using language that I'm not sure ever caught verbal wildfire. Aaron calls it the light bulb of our time. Michael Scarn's bit is pretty great, but we move into some actual user feedback with lots of comments that would indicate that Ryan's platform isn't functioning the best. And it's kind of a bust. There is a shop here in which Ryan suggests that Wolf is aiming to change the directions of Fashion World as well, but none of the images are hosted anywhere anymore, so we can assume that it was probably where you could buy some Wolf.com branded stuff directly from NBC.
Just imagine that you're at spring break Daytona Beach.
Here we go.
Okay? Everyone's like, hey dude, what's up with all the hotties in the Wolf shirts?
As the episode opens, Ryan mentions that there already is an offer to purchase a company on the table. As the investors are getting antsy about Ryan's 9-day forecast, rightfully so, they're all wanting to pull their money immediately. Surely that money already went to Ryan's haircut, those dollars don't exist anymore. As Ryan explains his financial projection sheets, they're wanting to have an actual plan to save the company. All he has are half-baked marketing ploys.
Wolf condoms!
The rest of this plotline plays out with Michael having to decide if backing Ryan is really worth it or not, in more ways than one.
You may be right. I may be crazy.
Don't.
We're going to get into that more in the deeper meaning, but the B plot of Wolf.com follows Dwight as he stands up this hay festival in the parking lot for Thanksgiving. Country Chris is going to say that this is actually straw and not hay. Hay has like a little hint of green to it, as that it's actually nutritional for animals to eat. And this looks like straw, which is just fit for bedding, for animals, but also like decorations for Thanksgiving. I don't know. I guess harvest stuff. I don't know. So built on the throne of lies, Dwight's hay place is really just looking to make a buck. Creates a pretty neat little festival for the day though. Who takes their kids in the middle of the day, in the middle of the week, to a hay place in a corporate park? I don't know, but there are a lot of people here. So Dwight, once again, is shown to be a really good salesman, which may be why Angela is feeling a little frisky.
Why do you have to drag cats into this?
And is looking to get into Dwight's pants, but he's a little preoccupied with filling his pockets with money. Angela, if you recall, is very much on the Dwight train right now and has been going out of her way to get him to notice her beyond this contract. Enter the cheerleader's dad, and Angela is now smitten with the affections of a new fella.
And if I were to call your house and ask for your wife, would I get through to you?
My wife passed away a few years ago.
How tragic.
And while this kid is never seen or heard from again, this kid is...
Are we gonna eat these today?
If you want.
And guys, I cannot wait to talk about the pilot episode for Dwight's spinoff, The Farm. But for now, the kids seem to love sitting in the allergy-inducing black box bouncing around Scranton. So, cool. Dwight overcharging for every aspect of this disappointing excursion sounds very much like every single farm experience I ever had as a kid or, as an adult taking my kids to pick apples or pumpkins or whatever. So all of this feels very real. Kevin getting lost in the maze, while not being real, is pretty great.
Hello? Oh, help!
And Dwight, comically but completely unbelievably, crowning himself as Hay King is a surefire way that the success of this day is just a one-time thing.
I pick me. I am your Hay King. All hail your Hay King!
We're going to get into that in the deeper meaning. There is a tertiary plotline that follows Jim as he comes to grips with Saber's new sales cap.
Commission comes out to... $0.
How Jim would be oblivious to a policy that would greatly impact his job and his salary, I have no idea. Again, a schmidge unbelievable. But I guess I wouldn't be surprised with corporate America slipping something in to where they never made a formal announcement or something. I don't know. Gabe represents Saber though, and is just putting Jim off.
Can you at least try to look busy?
And as Jim tries to fill the void, he makes a plan to get back at Gabe for being a weenie, I guess.
Nudity makes me uncomfortable.
Okay.
My gym allows it. I wish they didn't, but it's policy, so I respect it, and I just keep a look away.
It's not really Gabe's fault, but I think we've all had bosses like this in the past.
What? No, Gabe is not the boss.
Which they're just towing the corporate line so hard that every policy, every little decision made by the company has to be logical and right, even if you have to do mental gymnastics just to justify it, rather than just owning up that, yeah, this sucks. I'm not really sure it should be this way. Let's see if we can do something about it in the meantime. Let's just work together and bear through this. So Jim is all of a sudden an audio engineer and clips out Joe's book to create one of the best non-Dwight targeted pranks in the entire series.
Next time I saw David Geffen was at the Buffalo Club. I love you, you gay bastard, I said.
Something about clipping gay bastard to create Gabe is one of my favorite bits from this episode. Jim leaves satisfied knowing that he's earned his recompense, and we're gonna get into that in a deeper meaning, which is right now. I'll stop teasing it.
What does a bean mean?
Someone please explain it to Cat.
Just remember that the thesis statement of the wolf.com episode is,
The world shines on Moe's.
and let's rate this thing. Just kidding. It seems that everyone in this episode is coping with some sense of loss, something that they've lost physically or even just an ideal. Jim, for example, is dealing with the loss of what he projected as a salary for the rest of the year. And not to mention that the only reason he took the demotion back in manager and a salesman is because there was no cap.
So check this out. According to the handbook, you could make more money as a salesman than as a manager. They have all these incentive programs. I ran your numbers from last year.
This is way more than I make now.
Meaning that Jim once again has found himself in yet another career setback. Pam and the rest of the Wolf investors are dealing with the loss of what Ryan projected they'd earn over the next 5 months. Angela's dealing with what is becoming clear to her now that her monkey trainer has indeed moved on. Aaron is dealing with the loss of printer ink.
All that color.
Look at that.
Dwight's dealing with the very real childhood loss of importance to his cousin Mose.
Did I truck 300 bales of hay to a parking lot to rectify some childhood disappointment? Yes.
But he's also dealing with the end of his contract with Angela for Cookie.
Angela!
In a deleted scene, we see that Toby is dealing with another guy taking the fatherly role in his daughter's life. And Michael is sent reeling from the loss of years of productivity with one sentence.
Why have I been separating the trash into whites and colors?
And while that may feel like a throwaway joke, way back in the 2 Weeks episode, we see Michael actually crossing paths with these recycling bins.
Michael.
Shh, don't look down. Look straight up.
Both 2 Weeks and Wolf.com were written by Aaron Schur, so surely he had something to do with making this happen.
And don't call me Shirley.
Proud of you, buddy. That was awesome. On the reels, though, Michael seems to be less worried about the financial loss and more about what it means that he's putting his faith into someone who's taking advantage of him. This is all laid out in a deleted scene in which Michael cashes in one of his counseling hours with Toby to discuss.
When Ryan came here, you really idealized him.
No, just the opposite. I thought he was the coolest kid I ever saw.
Presumably, Michael coming to grips with who Ryan really is doubles down on inspiring Ryan to greatness rather than pulling the plug. And this has to be intentional, right?
Good manager doesn't fire people, he hires people and inspires people. Ryan.
It's a risky but pretty classy move by Michael to once again stand in the gap and prop his people up, which is kind of juxtaposed to what Gabe is doing.
But you know what? Even if he doesn't, I would rather go broke betting on my people than get rich all by myself on some island like a castaway, and there is no middle ground.
His closing talking head, in which he's classifying office staff people as various cards. He calls Ryan the two because sometimes they're wild cards and you never know. But the sense of relief on Michael's face confirms that this is what he wanted. He was setting Ryan up to make the right choice himself. And that is what he did. It's another season 7 example of Michael leveling up, and in this case he gained the ability to see Ryan for the dirtbag that he is, and opts not to serve him with recompense. Instead, he lifts him up.
Ryan, I believe in you. Just like I believe in all of you.
Past, present, and future, dealing with loss is really heavy. Wolf.com resolves fantastically neat, but life rarely wraps up with such a nice bow. I believe the Wolf.com episode is teaching us that while the world may shine on Mose, friends and family can shine on us when life's at its darkest. Dream big, work hard, take the wins when you can.
Thank God.
And with that, let's rate this thing.
This is the worst.
Okay, the cold opening, which I already pulled plenty of clips from, is why data privacy functions exist within corporate technology organizations.
Does anybody know that password? Because otherwise we can't do any work.
Big boobs.
Try big boobs with a Z.
If the punchline wasn't something that would offend Pam, then I think we'd probably see this whole bit used a lot more in corporate training videos about information security. As it is, it's a late season example of Michael and the entire staff executing a killing field, and I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 5.
That's the password. We're in.
All right.
Wow.
As for this episode, the ratings on IMDb for the last several ones have been kind of low 7s, which isn't super surprising. It's been a bit of a rough patch for The Office, and Wolf.com is no exception. But I actually really like this one. There's a lot happening, and most of it is always driving forward, always driving to a payoff that resolves really nicely. And if we remove 2 sequences with Jim being bored and replace that with Wolf.com or Hey Play stuff, I think this episode exceeds. My guess is that the bored Jim bits were as the audience would have returned from commercial breaks when this first aired, which may have had a different vibe on that platform and not felt as just weird breaks in the episode. As it is, I'm curious as to why this episode is rated as lowly as it is on the Office scale. I'm gonna give this one a 4 out of 5.
Okay, well it can't be 0, Kev.
I said da-da-da-da.
Lower on the 4 scale, but 4 for sure. My gut is that at this point in the series, audiences had already begun to lose sight of what The Office is, and the stress relief effect had taken full form, demanding that every single episode contain elaborate bits or drama-propelling sequences to maintain that feeling of momentum in the series. It's just my gut, though. I enjoy this episode because it is a self-contained story in which people are in the office and they're doing stupid office stuff and they all resolve so nicely. But I'd love to hear what you think about Wolf.com in the comments. That's all I have to say about this one. Next week, join me as we cover China.
Or else what? There's nothing you can do.
We can move out.
Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.